Hi everyone, this is Maria, and we're going to talk a little bit about the cathode ray tube and gold foil experiments. So our goals for this video, learning more about those details of each of those experiments, and then seeing how each experiment changed our picture of the atom, and then keeping in mind that our picture of the atom has changed dramatically over time. So just keep all of those in mind as we go through the video. So let's start with the cathode ray tube experiment. So J.J. Thomson in 1897 ends up using a cathode ray tube, but it's really important to talk about what a cathode ray tube actually is at first. So it's a almost perfect vacuum, not quite. You have to have some gas in there, where you have this enclosed glass tube right here. That's what the outline is right here. And you end up running electricity through it. So that's what the cathode and the anode plate are here. You end up having a hole right here to end up producing this ray itself. And then some of the kind of later fancier ones end up having this phosphor coating. I know it's misspelled right here, but it's a phosphor coating. And where when that ray would hit the back of the tube, you would actually be able to see some sort of light up here as well. Now, why is it called a cathode ray tube? Well, part of the reason why is just because the visual ended up kind of looking like it was coming from the cathode itself. So even though it takes both a cathode and an anode, the cathode is almost what it looks like is producing that ray itself. Okay. So J.J. Thomson does several different experiments, but the one that we talk about the most in chemistry is actually his second really famous experiment. So he still uses that cathode ray tube as from before, but what he ends up adding on to his experiment is he ends up putting this positively charged metal plate and a negatively charged metal plate towards the end of the cathode ray tube. So he ends up seeing that the cathode ray end up curving towards that positively charged plate and away from the negatively charged plate. So this ends up implying that the ray is negatively charged because we know positive things attract negative things and that negative things repel negative things. So both of those things together end up telling us that the ray itself is composed of some sort of negatively charged particle. J.J. Thomson does this experiment several times over with different materials, and every single time he ends up seeing the same results. So he ends up coming up with this idea called the plum pudding model. He knows from previous experiments that the atom had to be neutrally charged. So even though you may be like, but he just saw evidence of the negatively charged things, that's part of the prior information that he knew before. He did his experiment. So he ends up proposing that the atom has small negative particles called electrons embedded into a positively charged background. That's what we have right here. We call it the plum pudding model because Thomson was British and it's a British dessert, and that's something kind of like the plums in the pudding. The electrons are sort of like the plums. But because a lot of people don't know what plum pudding is anymore, people will often refer to it as the chocolate chip cookie model as well, where the electrons would be like the chocolate chips, and then the cookie part is like the positively charged background. Just a quick note on that positively charged background before I go to the gold foil experiment. The positively charged background is in fact referred to as a lot of different things. You'll see sometimes it referred to as kind of a positively charged fluid. You might see it referred to as a positively charged soup. It's essentially just this idea that there's positive charge in there, but it doesn't have like a very concentrated area of dense mass. That's kind of the idea behind this one. Okay. So then J.J. Thomson's student, Ernest Rutherford, in 1909, ends up performing the gold foil experiment. Now, before I go into what the gold foil experiment was, I need to talk about alpha particles, because that's a pretty key component of that experiment. So alpha particles are produced by different types of radiation, and alpha particles are fairly large, especially compared to things like electrons. But the other thing to keep in mind is that that positive charge overall. The positive charge and it being like fairly or relatively large as compared to other subatomic particles is important to keep in mind. Okay, so now that we kind of know what alpha particles are, let's talk about the gold foil experiment. So Rutherford ends up having his students set up a thin piece of gold foil. It's very, very thin. It's about 200 atoms thin, which is very impressive. If even if it doesn't sound like it, that is incredibly thin. And then he has this fluorescent screen in the background so that he can see whenever an alpha particle runs into that screen. So he ends up having this radiation source. Radium was what produced those alpha particles, and then essentially ends up shooting those alpha particles at that gold foil sheet. So the important part is that almost all of the particles shot through and ended up hitting the back of the screen. And then some of them end up deflecting. Some of them end up kind of deflecting like these ones right here. That's about 1 in 8,000 particles. And then some end up shooting back towards the radiation source. So one's more like this, or they don't show it on here, but some of them even weren't able to be detected because it shot exactly back towards the radiation source. For how many end up being produced by that, there's about 1 in 20,000 alpha particles that end up having that very dramatic deflection. So this is unusual because Rutherford went into this experiment thinking that this is what the atom looked like. Remember the plum pudding model. And so because that positively charged fluid wasn't very dense, and he didn't expect a whole lot of deflections, maybe minor deflection overall, but he expected all of the alpha particles to hit the back of the fluorescent screen. But what he ended up seeing was that almost all of those particles hit the back of the fluorescent screen. There are some that slightly deflected, and then there are some that majorly deflected. So he has to come up with a new model of what the atom actually looks like. So for the Rutherford model of the atom, what he ends up coming up with is this idea that there's a positively charged nucleus in the center of the atom that ends up containing most of the mass of the atom. He's saying the atom is mostly empty space, but there is this nucleus in the center. And then he also comes up with the idea that, well, there's got to be those electrons. I know that from Thomson's experiment, but those electrons must just orbit around the nucleus. No particular pattern, just they orbit around the nucleus. And this ends up explaining those experiments, because if we think about what happened here, well, if it's an alpha particle that's coming near to the nucleus, remember, those alpha particles are positively charged. The nucleus also positively charged. So there's going to be some repelling action between the nucleus and the alpha particle. And so there'll be a little bit of a repelling action at that point. Or if the alpha particle bumps right into the nucleus, then you end up having it completely deflecting at a very dramatic angle overall, indicating that it hit something that had a very dense mass at that point. It's sort of like the idea if you were throwing a ping pong ball at a bowling ball. You know that ping pong ball is going to come right back at you. And Rutherford was so surprised that he says this famous quote. You don't have to write this down, but it is an interesting thing to hear. So Rutherford ended up saying, it was almost as incredible as if you fired a 15-inch shell at a piece of tissue paper and it came back and hit you. So he was not expecting this at all. All right, so he comes up with this model of the atom. We're going to talk more about other types of the models of the atom, but what we'd like you to think about is what would have happened if alpha particles were negatively charged instead of positively charged in the gold foil experiment. Write down some ideas. They don't have to be correct. We just want you to think about it. All right, we'll see you in the next class, and be prepared to talk about this and have some questions for sure. All right.